bags are packed, are you ready to go? This time tomorrow we'll be on the road, riding with you in the sunnier days. I wouldn't want it any other way.
Welcome to the WifeSavers podcast, where multi-award-winning author and global marriage educator Ramona Zabriskie provides answers to your real wife questions. Our goal is to help you appreciate your womanhood, prioritize your personal development, and craft a powerful partnership with the man in your life. Hi, I'm Hannah Allen, and I'm proud to introduce my parents, Ramona and Dale Zabriskie. And yes, this is how they talk all the time. Let's listen.
Hi, this is Dale Zabriskie, the super lucky guy to be married to Ramona Zabriskie. Listen, maybe we should just take this podcast and talk about how lucky I am. It would be good. That'd get a little old. 40 years I've enjoyed my time with Ramona, and here we are talking about saving other wives. I've saved my wife. It's time to save other wives.
Wait a minute, who saved who?
Oh, well, let's see.
I always wonder that about Lois Lane and Clark Kent. Who saved who?
Yeah, when he's flying, It's all right, miss, I've got you.
Yeah.
You've got me.
Who's got you? Right.
So I think, you initially saved me, and then I think I've...
You save me every day, honey.
Oh, well, I don't know if...
No, seriously. And I mean it.
Oh.
You save me every day.
You save me every day. Cue the music.
Don't make fun of me.
No,
I mean
it's true.
it.
No, that's, What? Stop.
No, but I'm... we didn't plan this intro.
No, obviously.
But it goes to the question today.
Does it really?
Yeah.
I haven't read the question.
Yeah, I know.
That's
it goes perfectly to the question.
Okay. So what are we going to talk about? Saving people?
Well, we have a sweet wife who needs some saving, needs her husband to be more involved in saving her.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
So listen to this. I know that all the wives listening are going to relate. She says, what I'm wondering is, how do I help my husband see that my needs and wants need to be a priority to him? Okay. I've often heard that when you meet the needs of your spouse, that they will naturally begin to meet your needs. It sounds nice in theory, but in my marriage, it simply is not true. Laugh out loud. At least she's keeping it
light. Dun, dun, dun.
She says, I have a wonderful husband. Now let's underline that.
Okay.
He's a good man.
From a basis standpoint.
I have a wonderful husband who wants to meet my needs, but with a demanding job, I feel like I have to remind him to meet my love language, right? And to make our family a priority. And when I meet his love language, which... surprise, is physical touch. He thinks both of our needs are fulfilled and forgets to meet mine. Oh. So it's not simply that's simply not true what people say, that if I meet his needs, he will meet mine. I've tried setting a daily reminder on his phone.
Okay.
Sorry, writer.
Okay, yeah, let's not laugh at it too much.
That's 40 years laughing. Sorry. I've tried.
She's trying.
She's being very creative. So she says, I tried to set a reminder on his phone, lovingly reminding him by text or in person. I even recently purchased him a marriage book. Okay, don't laugh.
Okay.
I purchased him a marriage book and downloaded it to his phone with reminders of things that he can do to show me that he loves me. Okay. I don't think he's even looked at it.
I think she may be on the do not call list.
My calls are blocked.
Yeah, that's right. Block list. Yeah.
When I lovingly or playfully remind him to meet my needs, he does well for a day or two and then completely forgets again for weeks until I remind him again, or he
Till
gets
the
a text.
the timer
right,
goes
right, till the
off.
timer goes up. Because I have to remind him of my needs, I end up feeling like I'm begging for his affection.
Right.
He's a good man. Listen, she's telling us again. He's a good man, but he often places more of a priority on his desires, needs, and wants than on my own. She goes on to give a lot of different examples. It's quite a letter. So she comes back to, I realize, and in the second half of this letter, she explains he's in his residency.
Oh,
He's becoming a
going through medical
doctor. He's a
school.
doctor.
Okay.
Right. And so we can only, sometimes you never,
Yeah.
it's a widow's position during those years. And so we can see that it really is a strain and a stress on her and on the marriage. And she said, but at some point I need to see a shift in his priorities and a willingness to support and show his love for me and what's important to me. How do I inspire him to do that without feeling like I'm nagging or begging him? And she says, she apologizes for the length of the question and says, I know it sounds like a selfish question, but I just really had to explain myself.
Well, she's obviously desperate.
Yeah.
To the point of feeling like, that
Yeah.
the only way I can reach him is through his phone, because that's with him all the time.
Oh, yeah, that
He's
is where she's coming
in residency.
from. Sure.
And it's hard to speak to him because if we are close to each other, he's asleep.
Yeah.
Or he comes home and it's the intimacy. He needs the
Okay,
physical
he needs
intimacy,
that.
which maybe we ought to touch on a little bit. I don't know. And
That's another podcast.
it is a whole podcast in and of itself, but I think in this relationship, from a guy's perspective, if you're going through residency and he only has a few hours time there, the priorities are going to come to the surface, whatever those are.
Right.
But she's obviously trying to reach him in whatever technology or mode she possibly
there you
can.
go. I think that is what she's thinking. That's pretty astute, actually. And I want to congratulate her for not only that, and not only being creative and being hopeful and wanting to work at it, but for recognizing that she has needs.
Right.
And she has a right
And she's
to
trying
having
to
those
figure
needs
it out.
met. And she is trying to figure it
And
out.
we're not laughing at her.
And her-
I want to make sure. We laughed a little bit at the beginning, and I don't want that to be offensive.
We're very sympathetic.
We totally understand, but
Right.
it is, you bring a really good point of how she's engaged, she wants it, she respects him, she knows he's a good guy. It's just, how do I do this?
Right. And you know what else? Her needs are very realistic. If you read the second half of the letter, she's like, I just need a haircut. I just need the $25
Wait a minute, he's
for a
going,
haircut.
oh, okay. I thought he was going to residency and he's a barber as well. So she can't get in to see him as a barber? Is that what you're
Used to be that way, right? Doctors and barbers, they were one and the same thing.
I think Handel was a barber. No, his dad was a barber. That's right. I understand.
No, she just needs a little bit of money, and things are strapped. They already have several children. He's in residency. You can only imagine. So
Sure. Oh,
he goes, gets a haircut, but when she asks for a haircut, he balks. So this is the kind of thing where she feels like he's not demonstrating to her or showing, giving her
Giving what she
anything,
needs.
any evidence that she is a priority. So her needs are realistic. They're not over the top. And she's approaching him in a, trying to in a respectful way and creative way. I just think it's great that she's prioritizing herself almost in this way. She apologized for sounding selfish. Well, the bottom line is he's not going to get through residency if she comes unhinged.
right.
He's depending on her to hold the fort down, if you will, to be an inspiration.
This is
to
a
him.
really intense stage for couples, those that go through medical school
Or any kind
law
of
school
education
or
or
something that's
flight school.
yeah, whatever it is,
Yeah.
right? Well, you've picked a very specific
Or
career,
military.
and it takes you away from the family.
Yes.
And like I said, it might be overseas, or it
Right.
might be in the air, or
Right.
here it is. This is,
Yes.
and I think medical school is probably one of the most difficult times.
That's what I've heard
In residency,
from wives.
in residency, especially.
Yes, in residency
And
especially.
so
They really
this is
put
a
you through the ringer.
stage. This is a stage
Mm-hmm.
that she needs help getting through.
Okay.
And I don't think it's always going to be like that.
Well, I think
And
she
I wondered,
feels that too.
I think so. I wonder what was it like before.
Oh, well, we
We don't know, right? But we're kind of assuming that things were okay.
Well, I'll tell you something. She fell in love with him because he was that kind of guy.
And and she signed up for, let's go do this.
Yes,
Yeah.
she fell in love with him because he did have big ideas. He was a big dreamer. He was accomplished. He was someone to be respected. But now that she's living with it,
in the
reality of it, with children underfoot and so forth, that's a new paradigm.
So what are some things that she can do to help
Well,
this?
first of all, I love the point that you just made about the demands on him. So appreciating this one secret will make all the difference. And honey, I had to go through this. It was tough on me for many years, right?
Yeah.
When you were traveling for a living or so forth. And what I couldn't really comprehend for a long time, and I spend a lot of energy today teaching women, and sometimes it takes a while to convince them of it, but when they get it, their world is revolutionized. And it's this, that his self-worth out in the world, proving himself to the world, has to be fulfilled and validated through his work, or we call it a quest in WifeSavers, through his work, before I can claim your full attention.
So the quest, the career, the residency in this case, has to be not you're not saying that he has to go through residency. No. He has to feel worthy and that it means something.
Because what he's doing is not only because of her. It's not just to bring home the bacon, if you will.
Or that it's thing he wants to accomplish, necessarily.
It's not just because of her. It's for her. In his mind, it is for her. It's an offering, right? It's like a magnificent offering
at
to
the
her,
altar
because
of the relationship.
He knows that she craves a man she can respect. And that's what he's trying to become. And how confusing it is then to that man, and I'm sure I did it to you, to feel like I'm this is what I'm trying to do for you, and then I come home and it's all, what I've been doing out in the world is worth 1 point compared to the 50 points that you're expecting from me now to do this thing that whatever it is,
with you or the kids are at home.
Not giving enough credence, if you will, enough credit to
that work,
to his work.
So yes, totally relate. There were times where I was gone for 3 weeks, month at a time, and there were many years where I would come home on a Friday. And I would leave on a Monday.
Yep.
And over and over. And I was like 300,000 miles a year traveling all over someplace new in the world.
Yes.
And that's when the kids were quite young.
Yes.
And so it's, in a way, a very similar situation here.
Yes.
And your point being, and I think, and I know there were times that we worked through that to where I felt at times that you didn't appreciate. You said, "Look, I'm doing this. I'm bringing home the bacon. This is what I do. I gotta make this happen. We gotta figure it out."
Right.
But it was something that we developed. We developed a way to make that happen.
Right.
It wasn't easy at first.
And I write about it. Any of my readers can read about the moment of truth. When I figured this out. And what I figured out was that I had been trying to shove my way to the front of the line, if you will, right? And what I couldn't see, what I had missed, was the truth that in your mind, I was already at the front of the line. I was at the front of the line. I wasn't competing with your work, right? Your passion was not a limited commodity, if you will.
That I had given it all one here and didn't have enough for over here.
Your dreams didn't threaten my dreams. From your point of view, you believed that your dreams were my dreams.
That's from my point of view. That's what you're saying.
Yes.
Right. Exactly.
In fact, you have to believe that as a man. You have to believe that your dreams are also my dreams somehow, or you cannot really thrive or progress. Your great storybook, epic, whatever it is you're trying to accomplish means nothing if it isn't for someone else. You can't be a hero without sacrificing.
So the
self-sacrificing.
The first thing is to appreciate that.
Is to appreciate
To
where
really-
he's really coming
Right.
from. So when she says, I'm not a priority in his life, I don't see any evidence of that. He
Every
would be
day.
appalled if
Yeah.
he thought you thought that, because he thinks what he's doing out there is killing himself
Yeah.
to do.
14 hours
is
in
proving
the
to
ER.
you what a priority
Yeah.
you
Okay.
are
Good
in
point.
his life.
Yeah. Right. But in order to do that, if he's 14 continuous hours in the ER or whatever it is,
And right.
he's got to focus. That has to be where his brain is.
If he's going to become
he's gonna do
that,
that-
person for you,
Exactly.
that's right. And
But
of course,
the behind it, the motivation for him behind it,
right, deep
there,
down,
not
deep
often
down.
articulated.
No, I haven't really heard it articulated
Yeah.
outside of LifeSavers. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So
So
first thing.
that is just critical. The other thing to understand is that he wants to please you. All right. Now she thinks he's not thinking about it because
he's
it's
not
not
interested in it.
It's not on front of
It's
his
not
mind.
natural,
He
doesn't
doesn't
happen.
want to slight her. He doesn't want to hurt her. He doesn't want to disappoint her. He certainly doesn't want to fail her at all. So appreciating that in and of itself is important. And that how's he going to do that? How is he going to meet her needs? How is he going to know what you want without you articulating it? Now, it sounds like she's tried to do that, right? She sent him her list
Yeah.
of how he could make
This
her
is
feel loved.
thinking that
or-
would make it easier for him.
Right.
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 This is all you need to do. If you just, if you get 75%, it's a passing grade.
there
Right.
you go.
and I'll be happy.
Oh, ouch. Yeah.
Right.
I have not, in all fairness, I haven't seen her list. But
No, we're
I'll
assuming some things. Yeah.
based on my experience with literally hundreds of other women going through this same process, I'll bet my bottom dollar that list is way, way too generic.
Oh,
Way
interesting.
too broad.
I thought you were going to say it's way too long.
No.
No.
Well, it might be.
Okay,
It
it
certainly
could
might
be.
But it's going to have something on it like, I need you to say I love you more often.
Okay.
It's going to say, I need you to spend more time with me.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to say,
Yeah. I need to spend more time with the
I
kids.
need you to
or-
bring gifts once in a while.
Yeah. Flowers
kind of
would be
stuff.
great.
All right. And that's all lovely, but it's way too generic. Think about where his brain is all day long. All right. So being very, very specific, it would mean a lot to me if, and listen, there's a whole skill set we learn in WifeSavers of the very specific language that will resonate with him. We call it the language of respect. And I'm not going to go into all of that today. We don't have time. But to say, it would mean a lot to me if we had an hour or 2 hours alone on Friday night or whatever. Now she's very specific, not just saying, I need you to spend more time with me. I need 10 minutes in the morning would mean
Yeah,
a
I
lot
was
to
going
me.
to
It
say,
would make me
an
happy.
hour or 2 hours may be overwhelming to a guy in residency.
Well, once a week, let's hope
15 minutes or half an hour, but being specific
not. Right.
of time.
Very specific in the request.
Yeah, in the request.
Whatever it is. And then she's going to have to just get it in her head that it's going to take time for her to teach him. She expressed being frustrated. Remember, I read it there, that she would do this and he'd be really good at it for a couple of days. Why is that, do you think, as a man? Why did it only last a couple of days?
Well, so, okay, I'm in residency or I'm flying all over the world in my own experience, right? And I hear this, that I'm not meeting needs enough. So, okay, I'm going to do it. And I come home and I muster it up and and it's like, so you want me to bring gifts? Would you like, what kind of roses would you like? What color would they like to be? Is there a specific chocolate that you like?
That's not romantic.
Yeah. So, right. You shouldn't have to tell me what that is.
That's how women think. Yeah.
But so I'm going to muster it up and I'm going to do it.
Right.
But
what happens 2 days later?
what happens 2 days
I
later?
perk up. I'm perked up.
Yep.
I'm like that wilting flower that
That's
just
right.
went, whoop,
Miracle Grow got poured on it.
And you think that would be enough
That's
positive
it.
reinforcement
And
that
I'm
he'd do
like,
for the rest of his life.
But I'm like, oh, whew, okay, good. Whew, she's happy. She's doing good. That was a great night last night, baby.
Check.
Whatever
check,
it is.
Check. Yes.
Now. And then
right.
I'm back
Scratch that off
into-
the list. Oh, I did
I'm-
good. Now
I did
back.
it.
Yeah.
Right. Now I'm back to
Right. Because generally speaking, we've all heard this. Men think in a box. They're more task oriented, and so
I did what you wanted me to do. And if you create the list, that's what it's going to turn into. Check,
that's
check,
true.
check,
That's true. So don't hold it against
Yeah.
him when you gave him the list. Yeah,
That's
the
right.
honeydew list. We're going to break now for just a minute so I can invite you to my free live masterclass, Understanding Your Husband and Sons. In my work with women in over 70 countries, I found that most of us, when it comes to our husbands and sons, think like Carol in Kenya,
I was expecting him to think like me, behave like me.
or Dana in Utah,
Shouldn't we just be the same? And shouldn't we just agree?
or Anne in California.
I grew up in a culture where there was a lot of eye rolling and sighing about guys.
And that's too bad, because when we act or react based on false expectations, we end up feeling like Catherine,
I didn't feel I could relate to him because I didn't understand him.
or getting riled up like Carol.
Made me mad. It's crazy. It was frustrating,
And acting like Anne,
I used to think he should know what I wanted without me having to ask.
which just erodes our relationships and blows up our dreams. So that's why I created Understanding Your Husband and Sons, a super fun, eye-popping deep dive into his brain, body, and emotional makeup. Women have been coming from all over the world and coming away from our time together with an exhilarating sense of hope and power, because now women like Amber, Ann, Dana, and Allison understand.
How to communicate my needs, how to be clear about it, how not to be run around, how not to manipulate.
The way I communicate with him isn't any more aggressive or threatening to him.
I can see why he's reacting or why he's responding that way.
That's helped to avoid a lot of the hurt feelings that I used to have.
So if, like Jeannie in Canada, you're thinking,
okay, I need to reboot how I think about marriage and men and how they're loved.
please join me at this free live masterclass, Understanding Your Husband and Sons. I'll teach you things you have never heard before and that you won't hear anywhere else. Science and strategies that will knock your socks off and make all the difference in your relationships.
And it just changes everything about how I see him.
There's this huge potential that I was not really tapping into because I didn't fully understand it.
We're both so much happier now.
And in how you see yourself.
My confidence as a woman has skyrocketed.
We've made it so easy. Just go to wifesavers.org/masterclass and choose a day and time. I'll meet you there and even answer your questions live, because like Carol in Kenya or Cindy in Argentina, you'll want to be able to say,
Oh, we're wired differently. And that's the beauty of life.
And it set me free. It allowed me to say, okay, I understand now. And I loved him more than ever.
wifesavers.org/masterclass. I try to help women see it a little differently in that they're teaching their husband. How else is he going to learn what they need if they don't teach him?
But can that be a negative in the sense of demeaning? I have to teach you.
Oh, you're not going to say that.
No,
You're not going to tell him you're
not
teaching
that.
him.
But I'm
No,
talking the
it's-
mind of the.
No,
woman.
No,
Okay.
not at all. It's completely the opposite.
Okay.
The whole skill set that we learn in WifeSavers of the right language to use, men love it. Absolutely love it and respond to it overwhelmingly positively. It's pretty remarkable, the results that we get. So no, it's not like that at all. It's completely the opposite. We call it the language of respect because it is respectful. It's not nagging. It's not hinting. It's not manipulative in any way. It's straight up, clear, direct, concise, talk to the big dog, and he loves it.
And
He
it's not a
loves it.
checklist.
No.
Right? It's not a
Oh,
do
no,
these
no, no, no.
things and.
Well, sometimes I give you a honey-do list.
Well, a honey-do list,
Absolutely.
yes.
But when we're talking about meeting my more personal, emotional
Right. That's what
support
I'm
kind of
referring to.
needs. So we have the the kind of household, family, ordinary kind of
running the
needs
right.
that all women need. They're expecting, and rightfully so, their husband to be participating in those things and being very articulate about that and how you go about it. Maybe a list. I give you honey-do lists. But then there's the emotional support, and that's what we're hearing here.
Yeah,
she's really looking for that emotional support. So here's another important maybe paradigm shift for her, and that's that he is not responsible for her happiness.
What? Wait a minute.
Nah.
No?
No matter how hard he works for the rest of his life, if he said, I love you and you're beautiful every day, 100 times a day, it probably will not be sufficient if she's not taking responsibility for her own happiness.
So if she thinks that you do these things and I'll be happy, then failure is in the future.
If you do these things, I'll be happy because you're going to top me off. All right. So if you think of a gas tank.
Okay.
That's completely, and we talk about love buckets or fill my bucket kind of thing. Women don't have a bucket. They have a barrel. They have a tank.
They have a tank.
Yeah. And so for a man to expect a man to be the sole source of filling that tank is not only unrealistic, it is unfair.
It's unfair to the guy.
Any other human being to do that.
But you're also saying, what I hear you saying is the fundamental elements that provide the woman with their needs, their self-worth, are not provided by the guy. The guy tops it off and makes it all.
I'm saying in a successful relationship.
Right.
That's how it is.
Right.
All right. So she learns how to fill her own tank, if you will. That's another whole skill set in WifeSavers. And we can do another podcast about that. The delights, the drops, the delights, and the dazzles, we call it. And these are just the small, some big, but mostly small things, some really tiny, minuscule things that literally fill her up, that she can do herself, take responsibility for herself. If she has a deep need for conversation, for instance, which most women do, there's lots of other ways to have that need met through spending time with her girlfriends or whatever, especially if he's really unavailable in his residency program or whatever. And so she can take responsibility for that, and she's filling up that tank. Blub, 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 blub. It's going up, 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 and she keeps it up because she learns what works. And she keeps it really pretty high. Let's say 75% full. He comes along, tops it off with that 25%, his love, so that she's overflowing. Now what's happened? She's happy. She doesn't feel so neglected. He's happy because he feels successful as a man and a husband. He's more in love with her because she's more cheerful and not so, the little birdie in the nest going, feed me, feed me, feed me, She's not like that anymore. She's actually overflowing.
So how does she do this?
Good for the marriage, healthy for the marriage. So
how does she top it off then in this, example?
In her example?
Yeah.
We'd have to go deep into the second part of her letter to see some of the more specific things that she's looking for. But like the haircut, let's take the haircut. Yeah. She needs to just tell him she's going for a haircut. She shouldn't be asking for the $25.
Deal with the consequences.
Yeah. I need this to be more assertive in that need instead of just pouting that he didn't jump on the bandwagon.
So assertiveness is a key
it's
element.
Absolutely key.
That seems to be a respectful assertiveness seems to be lacking. Absolutely. It hasn't been articulated in this email.
But more important is how she fills her own tank. And again, I wish we had time to go into all of that.
Well, we'll do another podcast.
Let's do another podcast about it. But just the idea, the foundational principle that she needs to seize the day and be responsible for her own happiness. And that way she's not going to feel like his purpose in life is to frustrate her or ignore her or harass her or bother her somehow. That's not even going to enter her mind when she's feeling full. Mm-hmm. She's feeling energized. She's feeling loved and cared for because actually she's the one. Now, this brings me to another point. We're talking about her. We're talking prioritizing her in this right now. But what about prioritizing us?
Okay.
They need time together. They need.
There's hard commodity right there. Right now.
If I were her, that's what I'd be looking for, promoting, asking, being most ardent about is us time, especially a solid date.
Which is going to be hard to come by.
And I want it to be every week. I think they may fall apart without it. My experience is that couples who do not prioritize at least that weekly date, if you will, you don't have to call it a date, it's just time, but weekly time together where we're having that exclusivity, that one-on-one, that don't make that a priority, they fall apart. Their marriages just do not last, or let's put it this way, do not last well.
Well, she made the comment that when they do get together, it seems to be for one purpose, right? He wants to have sex.
Right. But here we're going to make it easy for him when we're spending time to have conversation, that one-on-one, so she's getting that emotional attunement and support and attention and affirmation that she's just craving. She's going to get that through conversation and time spent and affection, like holding hands or whatever. And he then is also going to naturally most probably get the physical intimacy that seems to be really important to him. So this is going to go a long way for him to be a little more in tune with her throughout the whole rest of the week, and more accommodating, more sensitive to her needs and so forth, because they've both been filled up, topped off, overflowing. It's so important. It's so worth whatever sacrifices have to be made, whatever special arrangements, whatever budgetary,
kids,
doesn't have to be expensive. We
whatever.
have Lifesavers. We have a whole year's worth of date night ideas that give you, they're low to no cost. So they don't have to be over the top.
No, I think this situation, though, is a matter of time and energy.
It sounds like time.
Time and energy.
Yeah, maybe a little money too.
Yeah.
And kids, there's kids involved,
obviously.
so it gets a little complicated. But whatever it takes, it
prioritizing,
is absolutely right. And then one more idea, and that is whatever he does do, and even if you've had to ask for it every day, you're going to give him what we call the happy dance. Lifesavers, we call it the happy dance. And it just means being appreciative, even lavishly appreciative for the slightest things, because we're going to celebrate what we want more of. You love being appreciated. He certainly does. And if you want him to remember to do this or that again and again, appreciation reinforces.
So when the positive thing, when the thing happens that she's craving, whatever.
Even the littlest
even an attempt might have been done the right way.
It might not be the right way.
It didn't relate exactly to the text that he received that said A, do this, B, do that, C, do this.
Right.
It's still celebration, and it's still appreciated.
Yes.
And it's not conditional celebration.
Right.
In doing it scored exactly. A 62%. I really enjoyed that 60, but other 38 was.
It's looking at his good intention, if you will, assuming that he's well-intentioned,
right,
and that he did make some kind of effort, and that it didn't last more than 2 days. We're not going to hold that against him.
Be happy with that, relish that,
and
put that, enjoy it, and build on it.
Listen, I tell my ladies that I for, let's say, how long have we been married? 40 years or something? 38 years of that 40 years. You've gotten very, very good at helping meet my emotional support needs, right? But I had to ask for it.
No, their time, that's true. It wasn't.
For 38 years, I'd ask for it. Well, I still have to.
Wait a minute, you're not saying the last 2 years I've been meeting your emotional needs?
I'm saying I don't have to ask for it anymore.
As of 2 years ago?
I'd say in the last couple of years, yeah.
Interesting.
You've really mastered it.
Wow.
I don't
know. I can't
sometimes
really...
I do. Sometimes I still have to ask. I'll say, honey, I need this or that. Will you sit down with me? That kind of thing. Sure. And I use the language of respect and so forth. But not near as often as I did in the younger
your point,
days.
Is that this is a process that is learnt
Yes.
and takes time
Yes.
and experience.
We're getting educated in each other. We're getting educated in relationships, but we're really getting educated in knowing ourselves and knowing how to be confident in not only giving. Women are very confident in giving, but in receiving.
Receiving's a hard thing.
That's another whole podcast. Let's do something about that, because women are pretty bad about, generally speaking, at receiving and knowing how to ask for what they need and then confidently receiving it and being grateful for it. So, wow, we covered a lot
there's a lot of elements here.
Ground. I hope we didn't overwhelm her.
So, well, recap the main points.
Well, one of the things, basically, we talked up front about how wonderful it is that, first of all, she's giving credit to her own. She's self-aware, right, and that she realizes she has needs that need to be met and so forth. So that's absolutely fabulous. But then we talked about how important it is to understand where he's coming from, and that's a big shift for a lot of us. And I know it was for me all those years ago. The idea that what he's doing when he's away from her at that point, focusing so much of himself on accomplishing this mega goal, is about her. It's not just because of her. It's for her.
For her.
Right. And so in actuality, she's not competing. She is at the front of the line, like we talked about. So understanding where he's really coming from, understanding that being too generalized in her statements of her needs or her requests is not conducive. It's not helpful to him. It's not productive. She needs to be very, very specific in stating, that here's how you can do this for me.
And not overwhelming with a long list of things, even though they're specific.
Yeah, that's right.
Take it a little bit at a time.
And even being specific as to today or this week or whatever. Really, really, really important. And realizing, like you said, that it'll take time for him to get in the hang of it and so forth. So how to approach him is really important, and how important it is to appreciate whatever it is he does, whatever attempts he makes, and to take responsibility for her own happiness and let him top her off, not expect him to fill up this vast empty tank. He can never, ever do it. It'll never be satisfactory without her doing her part. So take care of you and take care of the relationship by spending some time together, prioritizing time alone together so that her needs are met, his needs are met, maybe in one fell swoop on one beautiful date night. Goes a long, long way.
Excellent stuff. And the only other thing I would add is, and we touched on this before, is in this example where we have a guy in residency and a young family, it's a stage.
Thank you.
It's a period of time, and it's going to change.
Oh.
It's not always going to be like that.
Yes.
And if the relationship can develop in the way that you've articulated, it's only going to make the stages that come later all the better.
Right.
All the more easier to deal with.
Yeah,
but if they foul it up now, and he makes it through residency, but it becomes just a living
real
hell.
sticking point, and they become distant.
Right.
Because of it.
Once
They're
he's
not
done
pulling
with that,
as a team.
That next stage is going to be even more difficult.
And it's hard being the spouse of a medical professional.
Well, you spoke to a group of medical professionals not too long ago.
It's hard to be the husband of a medical professional. It's hard to be the wife of a medical professional.
It is, and it's the one I remember being there, and it was one of the most consistent discussion points of this huge responsibility that takes
we should talk about
away.
At some point going forward is supporting one another in our different ambitions and dreams, both him, and he's supporting her, supporting him. We call that dream weaving. That's another whole wonderful thing to discuss.
Yeah. Excellent.
Wow. Well, I feel like after this wonderful discussion, I just need some time with you.
Oh, well, let's go do that. Okay. We're going to go have some time together. Bye.
So, honey, do you love our subscribers as much as I do?
I am so in love with our subscribers.
And do you think we earned 5 stars today?
I'd say we're pushing 6.
Well, I hope they do something about it, and I hope they join my free live masterclass, Understanding Your Husband and Sons. It works, right? I understand you.
More and more.
Just go to wifesavers.org/masterclass.
Home is with you wherever that may